I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This whole situation is getting a bit wild. I mean, really wild. The kind of wild that could end someone's career, spark a criminal investigation, and seriously damage the credibility of the Department of Justice. Right now, Attorney General Pam Bondi is caught in the middle of all this chaos. Democrats in Congress are accusing her of lying under oath about Donald Trump's name showing up in the Epstein files. They're even pushing for a special counsel to look into whether she might have committed perjury.
Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got
released.
your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please
I'd like
stop
to
the clock.
reclaim my
Please
time.
stop the clock.
the legislation.
On February 24th, 2026, two members of Congress, Ted Lieu and Dan Goldman, sent a formal letter to the Justice Department. They want a special counsel appointed to investigate Bondi's sworn testimony about those Epstein documents. What's crucial here is that this isn't just some vague claim based on feelings or political grudges. This is grounded in what actually happened during the hearing right there in front of the whole country. Bondi sat in that chair, raised her right hand, and swore to tell the truth. Then she told Congress there was no evidence of Trump committing any crime in the Epstein files. That's what she declared under oath. But just moments later, Congressman Lieu pulled out real documents from the DOJ files showing the committee and the cameras that Trump's name came up repeatedly in tips, memos, and allegations. Not just once or twice, but several times.
President Trump is mentioned more than 1,000 times in the newly released documents, reflecting a long-standing social and business connection between the two men. Previous document releases indicated Trump was listed as a passenger on Epstein's jet 8 times between 1993 and 1998. And now, the newly released documents include uncorroborated claims about Donald Trump.
And despite that, Bondi still wouldn't change her testimony. She looked at the documents and insisted her answer stood as is. It's honestly hard to believe she said that. The Attorney General of the United States, the top law enforcement officer sitting there in front of Congress making those claims. So here's the thing. There's this situation where a congressman was literally holding evidence in his hands and waving it in front of Pam Bondi while she was saying there was no evidence at all. That's not just a different way of seeing things. It either means she didn't bother to look at the materials she's meant to oversee, or it's something way more serious. And that's why Democrats are pushing for a criminal investigation into this matter.
That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties."
Let me break down what went down at this hearing, which is honestly packed with some pretty shocking stuff. It all revolves around the president and one of the most infamous sex traffickers in American history. Recently, some Department of Justice files were released that show Trump's name popping up throughout various tips, allegations, and internal memos. During a congressional hearing, Pam Bondi found herself confronted with these documents right there in real time. But instead of addressing them, she chose to glaze over what they said.
In 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700.
co-conspirator.
Now we have two lawmakers who are formally asking for a special counsel to investigate if the Attorney General lied under oath to protect the president. That's where the real headline lies. And believe me, this story stands strong on its own without any embellishments. The House Judiciary Committee had a hearing focusing on the Epstein documents from the Department of Justice, which are all related to the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein.
There were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released, and yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion theoretically from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
We're talking about internal records, tips, memos, presentations, and logged allegations. The works all contributing to one of the largest sex trafficking cases in modern American history. Within those thousands of pages,
Attorney General
Trump's
Pam
name does not
Bondi
just
is
appear as a
here
minor
now.
note tucked away on some
I can't even
obscure
remember
page.
if
Nope. It shows up in tips, memos, and in summaries prepared by DOJ investigators, all of which are part of the public record now because the documents have been released.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
You showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to
Yes.
answer the question
How-
the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're gonna answer
theatrics
the
are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman
How many have you
Jordan, I'm not
indicted?
going to get in the gutter with these people.
How many?
Now, here's an important point. Just because something is unverified doesn't mean it's been proven, and it certainly doesn't mean Trump has been charged with anything, nor does it imply guilt. But the fact remains that information exists and was documented by federal investigators. So when Bondi testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee and boldly declared that there was no evidence linking Trump to any crimes in the Epstein case, her statement was quickly disputed by committee members who had actually taken the time to read the files. Those files do reference Trump. They include a DOJ presentation summarizing allegations from a woman claiming Trump assaulted her, plus an account from another witness who talked about Epstein introducing a young woman to Trump and commenting on her looks. All of that is in the documents, so the files that got released have some pretty significant details. Pam Bondi, the one in charge of the Department of Justice and its investigations, either didn't look through those materials before she took the stand, or she decided to twist what they actually say. Either way, that's a huge issue for the sitting Attorney General of the United States. During the hearing, things took an unexpected turn that you don't often see in government settings. Congressman Ted Lieu wasn't messing around. He came in ready to tackle the matter head-on. Instead of tossing out a generic question and letting Bondi ramble with a vague answer, he had the documents right there. He pulled them out and walked through each one in front of the cameras and the committee, highlighting the Department of Justice's presentation that summed up the allegations against Trump. He even pointed to specific witness accounts, laying everything out in detail before asking her, "Given what is clearly in these files, how can you say there is no evidence?" And there was Bondi sitting there with the same documents in front of her, standing firm on her testimony. She insisted her answer still held, claiming there was no evidence that Trump committed any crime. That moment right there set off the movement for a special counsel, Lou Goldman. And the other Democrats in the room weren't just disagreeing over legal terms. They witnessed the Attorney General of the United States making a sworn statement that directly contradicted her own department's documents. If her testimony under oath doesn't align with what those files actually indicate, that's basically textbook perjury. It's lying to Congress, and we all know that's a serious federal offense that could lead to real jail time. Now, let's chat about that letter Lieu and Goldman sent to the Justice Department. This isn't just some casual complaint or a press release pretending to be oversight. This letter is a formal request for appointing a special counsel. They're pushing for a special counsel instead of simply asking the DOJ to look into it internally. And the reason for that is clear. Bondi is in charge of the DOJ. It's not exactly practical to ask someone to investigate themselves or have the Attorney General appoint people to see if she's committed a crime. Lieu and Goldman put together a pretty intense letter outlining the whole situation from a recent hearing. They pointed out some documents that clearly contradict what Pam Bondi claimed under oath, and they argued that this gap between her testimony and the Department of Justice files is serious enough to warrant a criminal investigation. Now, whether the Justice Department will actually go ahead and appoint a special counsel is another story entirely. Let's face it, considering the current administration, it's unlikely they're going to investigate their own attorney general. But here's the thing. That letter is on the record now. It creates a formal trail that can't just be brushed aside. Even if nothing comes of it right away, it exists in official documents. And if control of Congress shifts or a new administration takes over down the line, someone could pick it up again and take action based on the evidence mentioned in that letter. The plot thickens even more when you look into Pam Bondi's past. Her credibility issues didn't just pop up at this hearing. She has a history that makes everything look worse. Before serving as Attorney General in the current role, she was the Attorney General of Florida, and there's an incident from those days that has haunted her. You see, the Trump Foundation made a hefty $25,000 donation to a political group that supported her campaign right around the time her office was deciding whether to take legal action against Trump University, which was dealing with fraud claims in several states. Other attorneys general jumped on board to sue Trump University, but Bondi's office chose to drop the case. Then the donation came to light and revealed that it was illegal, an inconsistency with IRS rules since the Trump Foundation was meant to be a charitable organization and couldn't be making political contributions. Trump ended up paying a penalty for that. Although Bondi has always maintained there's no link between the donation and her decision on the Trump University matter, the optics of the whole situation have definitely lingered. Journalists have been highlighting Pam Bondi's history for quite some time, showing that she tends to make decisions that seem to favor Trump while insisting there's no link between them. Now, as the Attorney General of the United States, she's in front of Congress claiming there's no evidence against Trump related to the Epstein files. Even though those documents suggest otherwise, it's quite clear why folks are connecting these dots and why critics argue this isn't just a one-off slip-up. It's becoming evident that she has a pattern of protecting Trump, no matter what the facts indicate. On the side of all this, social media is stirring its own kind of chaos. While serious discussions are happening in Congress and there are formal letters sent to the Department of Justice, an alternate reality is exploding online. You have YouTube channels and video creators churning out well-crafted series showing exaggerated courtroom drama where Bondi is depicted as caught in the act of whisking away boxes of evidence or facing threats of jail time from a judge and even being arrested on the spot. These dramatic presentations are racking up millions of views, and they really do look and sound convincing. With striking graphics, tense music, and urgent voiceovers, it's no wonder millions are sharing them and thinking they're real events, but they're not. The creators do label these as fictional, but those tags can be easily overlooked among the barrage of content, which complicates matters. This confusion gives Bondi supporters a chance to dismiss everything as fake news, arguing that none of it is real. They can point to these dramatized videos to undermine the genuine congressional accusations and the serious letter asking for a special counsel. That's the risk of blending scripted content with real political news. It allows people to shrug off everything, whether real or fake, as just another slice of internet drama. But the truth is, the congressional hearing, the documents, the sworn testimony, and the formal request for a criminal investigation are all 100% genuine. They aren't disappearing just because some creators on YouTube chose to make flashy dramatizations for clicks. It's essential to keep in mind the real events happening behind the curtain, including the hearing and the solid evidence that's coming to light. So here's the deal. We've got an attorney general in a tight spot. And it's not just some minor political trouble. We're talking about genuine legal issues. We're all aware of the ongoing chaos with social media, the Trump Foundation donations, and a letter sent to the Department of Justice. If a special counsel gets involved, or if a future administration decides to take another look at that letter, Pamela Bondi could find herself in a formal criminal investigation for possibly lying to Congress about one of the most high-profile cases around. What's incredible is her claim that there's no evidence against Trump is completely contradicted by what those files show. That's definitely not a position any attorney general or honestly anyone wants to find themselves in when they've promised to uphold the law and be truthful. As days pass, with each new document released and every new witness stepping up, the weight on Bondi's testimony just grows heavier, and those contradictions become harder to ignore. Let me break this down a bit because the ramifications are pretty serious, affecting the credibility of the whole Department of Justice. First off, Bondi's sworn testimony is now being challenged by members of Congress, and they've got the evidence to back it up. This isn't just vague accusations being thrown around. Ted Lieu presented actual DOJ documents during the hearing, showing them on camera. He made it clear that Trump's name appears in tips, memos, and allegations within the Epstein files. He even pointed out a specific DOJ presentation regarding an assault allegation involving Trump, and noted a first-hand account involving Epstein introducing someone to him. We're talking about hard evidence, not just rumors. And when Bondi was faced with these documents, she didn't say she needed more time to think about it or that she might have been mistaken. No, she stood by her claim that there's no evidence. That stubbornness, that unwillingness to acknowledge what the documents actually show, is precisely what sparked the perjury accusations. Perjury isn't only about saying something false. It's about doing so under oath when you know or should know it's false. So here's the deal. When you have your own department contradicting your sworn testimony and a member of Congress waving those documents in front of you in real time, refusing to set the record straight really raises some eyebrows. Luo and Goldman are convinced this crosses the line and justifies a criminal investigation. Whether a special counsel will be appointed now is a whole different story, but the formal accusation is in black and white. It's part of the congressional record, and it's going to follow Pam Bondi for the rest of her life. No question about it. Then there's the issue of conflict of interest with the Department of Justice, or DOJ, looking into its own attorney general. It's pretty clear that a special counsel is the only way to do this credibly. I mean, Bondi is essentially at the helm of the Justice Department. She's calling the shots on what gets investigated and who ends up facing the music. Asking the DOJ to probe into whether Bondi committed perjury is like asking someone to grade their own test. It's just not going to work. That's exactly why Liu and Goldman are pushing for an independent special counsel who would operate outside of Bondi's control and report directly to the court. However, the current regulations require that the Attorney General herself makes that appointment, which, let's be real, isn't going to happen. Bondi isn't going to appoint someone to investigate her own actions. It's a classic catch-22. But don't underestimate the importance of the request itself. It establishes a formal record, puts the DOJ on alert, and builds up political and legal pressure over time. If Congress changes hands or there's a new administration, that request could be revisited and acted upon with real force. It isn't merely a political statement, it's a documented legal marker. It captures a moment in time where members of Congress are calling for an investigation into Bondi, and that request is permanent. It looms over her every day she's in that office. Finally, when you consider the historical context with the Trump Foundation donation, it makes Bondi's credibility crisis even more dire. It creates a pattern that suggests she might have protected Trump. And if the Epstein hearing is the first time these kinds of accusations have come up against her, it's clear that there are serious questions about her actions. So, let's talk about Pam Bondi, who used to be Florida's Attorney General. While she was in that role, something quite eyebrow-raising happened. Trump's foundation dropped a $2,500 donation right into her re-election campaign as her office was deciding whether to jump in on a multi-state lawsuit against Trump University for fraud. Other states went ahead with the lawsuit, but Bondi's office chose to back off, and it later turned out that this donation broke IRS rules, leading to Trump getting slapped with a penalty. Now, Bondi has constantly denied any sort of deal, insisting that the donation and her decision not to pursue that case were completely unconnected. However, the timing certainly raises some eyebrows. Fast forward a few years, and Bondi finds herself in front of Congress claiming there's no evidence against Trump despite some bombshell documents being released. It seems that critics aren't just throwing around conspiracy theories, they're actually connecting the dots that reveal a pretty uncomfortable pattern. This pattern runs from that questionable donation in Florida all the way to her sworn testimony in Washington, which clashes with what the government's own papers are saying. Whether Bondi wants to acknowledge it or not, this situation shapes how everyone, public, media, and Congress alike, judges her comments about Trump moving forward. And right now, it's not looking too good for her. The real kicker here is how all of this is impacting the credibility of the Justice Department itself. The idea is that the Attorney General should be looking out for the people, not acting as the president's personal lawyer. When the Attorney General stands in front of Congress making statements that contradict the released documents, especially when those statements shield the president from potentially damaging information, it damages the whole institution. Trust in the Department of Justice takes a hit. The belief in its independence falters, and the notion that the justice system is fair and unbiased goes down the drain. Pam Bondi's testimony has really stirred up some serious doubts about the integrity of the Justice Department. When folks start thinking that the Attorney General might twist the truth to protect the president, trust in everything from prosecutions to decisions made by the department begins to crumble. It's a troubling situation for the nation's top law enforcement agency, and Bondi's words have played a big role in putting it there. The end result is that people's trust in her leadership is now shaky, and with unanswered questions swirling around, calls for a special counsel to step in are only going to intensify. While the internet is buzzing with dramatized courtroom scenes showing Bondi in handcuffs, the real situation is even more shocking. Here you have an attorney general currently serving facing accusations of perjury from Congress members. And then you have documents from the Department of Justice that clash with her sworn statements about Trump and the Epstein investigation. On top of all this, there's an official request for a special counsel to investigate whether she has committed a federal crime, plus history of questionable donations linked to the Trump Foundation that raises flags about her independence. Her sworn promise to tell the truth under oath is now under scrutiny. Congress believes the documents show she didn't keep that promise, leading to calls for a criminal investigation to get to the bottom of the conflicting accounts. The pressure is mounting, the paperwork is piling up, and the inconsistencies are becoming tougher to justify. Plus, the demand for accountability isn't going to fade away just because the powerful would like it to. If a special counsel is appointed in this case, we're going to see an enormous legal story unfold. Every single thing Bondi claimed while under oath will be scrutinized closely.